Raven here. Here is a sad, gruesome story from 1947, taking place from your reality. Imagine it's January 15th, a sunny morning, and you're walking your dog in Leimert Park neighborhood of Los Angeles. You're daydreaming of a party later in the day, until you come to upon something that will change your life forever. Today we are going to look at the tragic short life of Elizabeth Short. A pretty short-haired girl born in Boston on July 29, 1924. She was just 22 when it came to an end, coming to California to become an actress, fall in love, and live happily ever after. This will never be the case. Her lifeless body was found on that day. Newspapers of the period often nicknamed particularly lurid crimes. They gave Elizabeth the Black Dahlia. The term may have originated from the film noir thriller The Blue Dahlia, 1946. Just 18. Elizabeth moved to California to start a new life. Moving in with her father that she has not seen since the age of 6. Arguments with her father led to her moving out in 1943, taking a job at the Base Exchange at Camp Cook, while briefly living with Air Force Sergeant who reportedly abused her. Then moving to Santa Barbara, where she was arrested for drinking while underage. Juvenile authorities sent her back to Boston, but she went to Florida instead. While in Florida, Elizabeth met Major Gordon Jr., a decorated Army Air Force officer. She accepted his offer for marriage, but he died in a plane crash 1945. I think if they had married, she would have never gone to California, living a long, happy life in Florida. Strange how one incident can change your destiny. Well, she moved back to California. She spent the last 6 months of her life mostly in Los Angeles. Before her death, she had been working as a waitress and rented a room behind the Florentine Gardens nightclub on Hollywood Boulevard. Depicted as an aspiring, or would-be, shortly before the murder, Elizabeth returned home to Los Angeles after a brief trip to San Diego with Robert Manley, a 25-year-old married salesman she had been dating. Manley stated that he dropped Elizabeth off at the Biltmore Hotel because she was to meet her sisters, who was visiting from Boston. The staff at the hotel don't remember seeing her. Shortly after, she was allegedly seen by patrons of the Crown Grill Cocktail Lounge not far from the Biltmore. Her body was found on January 15th, 1947. Cut in half with a permanent smile cut into her face. A woman named Betty was running errands with her 3-year-old daughter. Early morning, coming up on an empty lot, she found Elizabeth. Think at first she was a mannequin. It looked too real, and on closer inspection, she realized it was a dead body. Running to the nearest house, calling the police. When the police arrived, they were even appalled at the gruesome sight. I guess even in a place with glamour and sophistication, it has its brutal dangers. Police found that a lot of thought was put into this murder. Elizabeth was not just hacked in half, but done with surgical precision. Drained of blood, leaving her skin a pale white. Medical examiners determined that she had been dead for around 10 hours prior to the discovery. The body had apparently been washed by the killer. Her face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating an effect known as the Glasgow smile. The lower half of her body was positioned a foot away from the upper. The killer posed Elizabeth with her hands over her head, her elbows bent at right angles, and her legs spread apart. Detectives located a heel print on the ground amid the tire tracks, and a cement sack containing watery blood was also found nearby. As you know in the movies, the killer needs everyone to know it was him. This was no different. A few days after, a person claiming to be Elizabeth's killer placed a phone call to the Examiner, congratulating on the newspaper's coverage of the case and stating he planned on eventually turning himself in, but not before allowing police to pursue him further. Additionally, the caller said to expect some souvenirs in the mail. 3 days later, a suspicious envelope was discovered, clippings, Additionally, a large message on the envelope read, "Here is Dahlia's belongings." The envelope contained a birth certificate, business cards, photographs, names written on pieces of paper, and an address book with the name Mark Hansen embossed on the cover. The packet had been carefully cleaned with gasoline, similarly to the body. Despite efforts to clean the packet, several partial fingerprints were lifted from the envelope and sent to the FBI for testing. However, the prints were compromised in transit and thus could not be properly analyzed. March 14th. An apparent suicide note scrawled in pencil on a bit of paper was found tucked in a shoe in a pile of men's clothing. The note read, "To whom it may concern, I have waited for the police to capture me for the Black Dahlia killing, but have not. I am too much of a coward to turn myself in, so this is the best way out for me. I couldn't help myself for that, or this. Sorry, Mary." Los Angeles Police Department interviewed over 150 men in the ensuing weeks whom they believed to be potential suspects. A total of 750 investigators from the LAPD and other departments worked on Elizabeth's case during its initial stages, including 400 sheriff's deputies and 250 California State Patrol. Another letter was received by the examiner, this time handwritten, which read, "Here it is. Turning in Wednesday, January 29th, 10 a.m., but the alleged killer did not appear. Instead, at 1 p.m., the examiner offices received another cut and pasted letter which read, Have changed my mind. You would not give me a square deal. Dahlia killing was justified. The killer is still at large. There is so much to the tragic murder I could not fit it in this story. Even though this had become a cold case, it makes you wonder who Mary is and why was this justified. Take a closer look at all the evidence, and who knows, you may be the one to solve this crime. Like, subscribe and comment your thoughts about Elizabeth's murder. Please help support the channel by checking out the links on the channel page. Thanks.